listening to Live at 5 with Troy D. and Ellerby. Now, back to the show.
All right, welcome back in as we kick into mid-January. Man, time is flying in 2016. Welcome back to the show. Ellerby will rejoin us later this week. He's off for the holiday. But got a full house in here. First of all, welcome to Clip Brock, our producer as always. Also, Glenn Griffin, assistant production. Got a new intern on the job today, Clip. Intern Zach, making his maiden voyage. Not to be confused with intern Screech, as I said earlier.
Hasn't messed anything up yet.
Not yet. It's early. We still got time. Yes.
We're good right now.
For intern alum, director of intern relations on the Periscope for us today, intern Robert. Do we still call him intern Robert?
I don't know. I was unaware of his new title.
Yeah.
That's big
Director
news.
of intern relations. And B. Pace, also assistant production. So we're coming to you live on radio, live on Periscope. We're on YouTube. And, of course, we're archived online, PirateRadio1250.com and the Pirate Radio mobile app. So the reason we have all these platforms is because we got a great guest, and we figured so much awesome information, everybody's going to want to get this in different ways, so we want to give them as many opportunities. First of all, welcome and Happy New Year, Jeff Compher.
Thank you, Troy. It's great to be here with you today. Happy Martin Luther King Day as well.
Appreciate you coming in. It has been a busy 6 weeks for you, I think is fair to say.
It has been.
It's been kind of an interesting time in ECU athletics, an important time for East Carolina athletics. There's been a lot of change. And I really want to talk a lot about the future and about what's going on with ECU for 2016 moving forward, and I know you do too. But this has been your first opportunity to talk publicly since really the decision to change head football coaches, and since you've hired a new head football coach. And there's been a lot of information out there, and sometimes even I, who try and keep up with things, sometimes I can't tell what is real, what is not, what is rumor mill, what is completely wrong. And this, I look at this as, and you can talk as much or as little as you want about it, but I feel this is the first opportunity to kind of clear the air on some things, and let's talk facts.
Sure.
And I just want to know, first of all, when it came time to make that decision, I know it wasn't just you. I know it involved other people, first of all. When the decision to coach, or if I know it was a tough decision, talk about that process and how you came to that with folks behind the scenes.
Well, I think in any situation like this, there comes a time when you don't make it in a vacuum. You make it by communicating to others. You let people know kind of where you think things are going. And then you make sure that there's agreement there. Because if there isn't, then the decision doesn't get very far. And I think it was important that I did my homework with the people, not just on my staff, but the people that work in and around the university, particularly my boss, and certainly had a lot of conversations with Chancellor Ballard, and certainly some conversations with our Board of Trustees members to try to inform them about what the direction was that I thought I might be going. And so, as I said, it wasn't done in a vacuum. I take full responsibility for it. I think my staff, in many conversations with them, they kind of knew the direction that I wanted to go in, and so we had a lot of extensive conversations about it, and it certainly wasn't taken lightly.
Were you surprised by the reaction that you got, I guess, throughout the community once that decision was made?
Well, yes and no. I think I was surprised at the volume of reaction, and by that I mean everything from social media to regular media to and the immediacy of it. I think it was there was some of that I was very surprised about, but we tried to anticipate some of that as we planned out how we would proceed with the announcement, and that was a big way or a big reason why I went and did the press conference that day. You know, we talked internally with our staff, and we discussed how do you deal with this. And I felt like it was best, with the advice of my staff, Tom McClellan and others, that I just went ahead and said, look, I'm going to need to meet with the media as soon as possible. And that's the direction we chose to go in. Obviously, by then, there was a lot of information out there. As you said, some of it was true, some of it was not. but it's hard to control it once it gets on social media. And I think that was the biggest thing that, I don't know how you control it, really. And so we kind of struggled with that a little bit as to, making sure that we didn't want to get into a he said, she said. We didn't want to get into a blame game. We really wanted to just talk about the process moving forward and not all of the reasons for the decision, because all of those things are something that you take into account, and you take into account over a long period of time as well.
Well, and we're not going to get into the reasons, and we're not going to rehash the decisions been made. We're just talking about the process behind the scenes, right. Some of the things that were said, whether they're accurate or not. I'll get to that in a second. And then we're going to take a look moving forward, talking to Jeff Compher, East Carolina Athletic Director for ECU. Joins us in studio. Jeff, as you know, emotions were running high with a lot of folks after that decision was made. As we mentioned, a lot of rumors, a lot of misinformation. It's hard to kind of tell what was accurate, what wasn't accurate. Folks had different agendas from different perspectives. Let's first talk about number one, a couple things that I heard, and I'm sure if I've heard this, other people have probably heard it too, and you can just say true, false, or whether it's somewhere in the middle. I heard people say, well, Jeff Compher didn't handle this right. For example, they had to have Coach Ruff escorted off out of the office by police. True or false?
Totally false. I don't know where that came from. It was a huge surprise to me, and no one ever asked me about that. There was never any verification of that, and that was a rumor that kind of got out there that when I first heard about it, it kind of shocked me, because that was the furthest thing from our minds as we went through the process.
Okay. Talked to a few people off the air, off the record, and the most thing they were upset about was that they had to escort Ruff off the property. Mm-hmm. Not true.
Not
completely
true at
false.
All.
Okay.
Completely false.
I heard that Coach Ruff, a lot of folks upset, did not get a chance to call his family after the meeting with you. He did not get an opportunity to discuss it first with them.
Right. We felt that after we had the conversation with Coach McNeil, when he left the office, probably the thing that I wish I had done was clarified more closely with him. Okay, what are you going to do now? Because we offered him an opportunity to formulate a statement, meet with the team, meet with his coaches, and he left. And when he left, I wasn't sure exactly what he was going to do at that point. And as in other cases that I've had, it seems to, once it gets out there, it gets out there. And so we wanted to try and get the message out without being too abrupt about it. And so our biggest concern was we didn't want the team to hear about it through the media. And so we can send an email out through a software package that we have to actually it's a text message to all of the team, and that's what we chose to do first. We knew that we were going to go with a press release later after that went out, because, again, as I said, we didn't want them to hear from the media. And so it was this kind of how do we go about the process of doing it right and trying to control the message versus having the message kind of control us from a response perspective. And so the timing of that, I guess, if there was one thing I wish I could go back and do is clarify that timing a little bit. I think when we talked, a week or so ago, we talked about, if I could have given him more time and I knew that he wanted it, I would have done it. But I didn't know that he wanted it. And that's one of those things where I wish, looking back on it, had I done that, then maybe things would have been different. But I don't think they would have been that different, to be honest with you, Troy. I think people still would have reacted in a very similar way.
And I've talked about this on other programs. The day and age of Twitter, Facebook, Periscope, all the social media has changed so much. It changed not just the media, but other folks, because then all of a sudden everybody can be in some way their own little reporter, right, if you will. So it's so hard to be able to, I was joking with someone the other day, we used to be able to wait till 5 o'clock to be able to break a story.
Yeah.
You can't do that anymore. And when you've got outlets like us and other folks that colleagues of ours in the media that are looking to put out news all the time, that if we had that, we wouldn't be doing our job if we sat on it, so to speak. So, it was good. I agree with you. I think it was going to get out one way or the other, whether players put it out or media put it out, or in this case, East Carolina put it out first. But what was the time frame? There was some time that went by before. I know I wasn't notified officially by ECU. I thought it was around 15 minutes or so once after your meeting, looking back at the time frame of everything.
That's probably right. It may have been that or a little bit longer. I'm not sure, but it was right in that period of time.
Yeah. So there was a 15-minute gap that he went back to his office, and at that point you don't know what happened.
Right.
Okay. All right. So clarified that a little bit. I hear this. Jeff Compher had to disable his Twitter account because he couldn't take the heat from Pirate fans. True or false?
Well, it was funny because someone had called about my Twitter account and said Compher must be getting fired, because that's what people do right before they get fired, is they disable their Twitter account. From my perspective, there was just so much negative energy coming across on Twitter, and I was getting a little distracted by that, and I felt that it was a means for people to express themselves, and I felt like they had enough time to do that, and quite frankly, I'd had about enough of it, and I didn't feel like I needed to continue to be active in that way. And so I felt, from my own perspective and that of my family, it's probably just best to get off of Twitter for a while. I may get back on. I'll have to see. I enjoy Twitter because of the immediacy of it, and that's part of the problem with it as well. And so I see the positives and the negatives.
All right, I know the answer to this one, but I have to ask it because I think there's some folks out there that maybe think this is true too, that Troy D is the spokesman for Jeff Compher, and that they were in constant communication.
As far as I know, we didn't talk until I know it was after the New Year, but I'm not sure exactly what day it was.
I don't think I talked to you until last week to set up this interview.
It was last week at some point that we had a conversation. It was after classes started. I do know that, so that would be last week.
I had zero communication with you.
Zero.
Throughout the process. None. I did I believe the day the decision was made about Coach Ruff, I believe I texted you as a courtesy just to let you know we were going to carry your press conference live.
Right.
Because at that point I thought we might be, I didn't realize, I knew it was a big story here, but I didn't know, a lot of the TV stations, I didn't think everybody else would cut in a regular programming to carry it live, which I think a lot of people did. So I think I never got a response, by the way, on that.
No, I didn't respond to anybody at that point.
Yeah, but that's the only communication we had. I just want to clarify that you do not tell me what to say, nor do I ask you what I should say.
No,
like to clarify.
And
that.
No offense, Troy, but quite frankly, I wouldn't expect you to be my spokesperson because I'm not sure we're always going to agree on everything.
True. You probably get a lot better spokespeople than me.
Well, no, I just don't feel like that's your role, and I wouldn't ever think of a media person to be in that role, to be quite honest. You have to be objective. You have to look at the totality of the situation, and as far as I can see, I think you've done that, but it certainly wasn't from my prompting or my request that you did that.
And finally, I guess a lot of folks just say, well, it just wasn't handled right. I don't know. Sometimes I try and ask what exactly wasn't handled right when people say that, because I'm curious to know what wasn't handled right so we can find out if it wasn't handled right or not. Do you feel it was handled right?
Well, yeah, I can certainly understand the emotional reaction as we've discussed.
And right, there might be a difference between right and professional. It seems to me it was handled very professional.
Right. I can tell you that I've had the opportunity to, and I don't look at it as an opportunity. It's not the best part of what my job is on occasion, but there is the occasional time that you have to relieve someone of their duties, and I've had to do that a few times. I can tell you that this was handled very similarly to other instances where I've had to do that.
And that's a tough part of the job, as you said.
It's extremely
no
tough.
fun. I can't imagine anybody that would enjoy that part of it.
No, it is, because you know that you affect a lot of people, not just that person, certainly their family, certainly all the staff and their families, and you know the work that it takes from that point forward to bring on a new staff and start anew.
All right, I was just thinking back to some of the top few rumors that I had heard. If there's any others that are out there that you'd like to address that I haven't asked you about, this is a great opportunity to do so.
Yeah, I don't know of any others, Troy. There may be some others out there. Certainly willing to address them. I know that I want to kind of clear the air and clear the record in some way, but I also feel that we do have to look forward to the future, and that's what I'm glad that we're able to do today.
All right, let's look forward now and look towards the hiring of Coach Mo, because I think once again in the media we're always trying to get as much information as we can and keep people up to date with as much accurate information as possible. I will say that you guys did a real good job this time around. This was probably one of the tightest lipped coaching searches I have followed at East Carolina. Very little information getting out. I think, once again, some of the information that was out there was misinformation, wrong information, a lot of rumors, much like before, some stuff that isn't correct. And everybody has different agendas. Sometimes people have agendas that you aren't even interviewing but would like to get their name inserted into the process. Can you talk about the behind-the-scenes process? How many people were involved? Where you guys met? Where all this went down? And
Sure. I can tell you about that. We actually hired a consulting firm to help us, Collegiate Sports Associates. The principal of that firm is Todd Turner. Todd helped ECU with our strategic plan. That was active before I even got here, and Todd was certainly involved in that process. So he really knew ECU well, and I felt like he would be a really good resource for us. I had worked with Todd before. He had helped me on searches before. So I felt, and he's from North Carolina, former athletic director at NC State, went to Carolina. So he knows the state really well, and he knows ECU very well. So I really relied on him to be able to help me kind of assess the candidate pool, and he was very good at that. But the first thing that I did is that once we hired Todd, we sat down with constituents from various, some donors here and in Raleigh. We also met with the football team and spoke to them. That was right during exams. So it was tough to meet with others, but we were able to get faculty. We were able to get our football team, and we were able to get two sets of donors to meet with us. And what we really tried to do in that was hone in on what were some of the qualities that we would people felt like we needed to find in our next head coach. And
stakeholders.
That was really helpful. Yeah, the stakeholders.
But your time is of the essence, so you guys met quickly.
So we met very quickly. People were very cooperative and wanted to be involved. From that point, I told them that I'm pretty much going to go dark, and certainly met with my staff and told them what the process would be. But we went about the process. I had a list, and then Todd suggested some names that we consider. I developed my list and had that, and we started vetting individuals and their interest for the job. That was done pretty quickly.
Now, I've heard from some other sources, not you, but some other folks that some names that weren't even out there. I'm not going to get into the names, but is it true that there was some major interest in this program and some names that would make kind of, I guess, would be national known names?
Sure.
That have not been out there, have not been reported.
That's true. I mean, there were some names of former NFL coaches, former high-level collegiate coaches that were interested in the job initially, just wondering about it a little bit. But based on what I learned from our constituent groups, from our stakeholders, I thought it was important that we really brought somebody here that understood ECU, understood North Carolina, understood the situation that they were walking into, and so a lot of those names that were floated around, that happens every search I've been in. That's not uncommon for that to happen. And so you get a lot of these national names that are out there. Guys that want to get back in after maybe being in the media for a while, they want to get back in, or coaches that are maybe gone to the NFL that want to get back into college. And so you have some of those names that are just they're just kind of tapping on the door a little bit to see.
Kicking the tires.
Yeah,
so
that's all they're doing, just to see if there's interest.
Well, let's talk about Scotty Montgomery, how he got inserted into the conversation, right. How he got when his interview happened. See, seemed like he was a late addition. Is that fair? Was he on the radar screen earlier than people
Very
realized?
early, he was on the scene for me. And when I first heard of Scotty, I did my homework pretty quickly on him, and I realized that, obviously he was at Duke. He was working with Coach Cutcliffe. He had been in the NFL. All the things that we now know about him, and the fact that he was so close in Durham really made it kind of wow. I at least need to sit down and talk to him. I want to get to know him regardless, because he has such a wonderful resume. And so we actually, what we did is, after I met with the stakeholders, I went over to Raleigh, Chapel Hill area, and I just kind of holed up in a location, and we brought candidates to us and I interviewed 6 or 7 face-to-face candidates and several other candidates by phone, and had an opportunity to talk to them. I had a list of questions that I had, and when I talked to Scotty, I knew at that point that he would be a very viable candidate. He really excited me in that interview. He won the room with me, probably like he won the room in the press conference. You
have been a part of a lot of these coaching searches, not just at East Carolina, but at previous universities, as an AD, as a staff member, as an assistant director. It's not new territory for you. How do you rank this search with other ones you've been involved in?
Timing-wise, about typical for me. It normally takes between a week to 2 weeks to really to get it done and get it done properly. And I know that seems fast, especially in the world of academia, and it is fast. But when you have recruiting, when you have a team that was hurting and looking to who their new leader would be, I thought it was important that we move fast.
This is my opinion. I thought it went very quickly. And when I heard some people say after a few days that, wow, this has been a bungled search. I was like, they haven't even had a chance to interview all the guys. How could it be a messed up search already? That was another rumor that was out there, though, that this search was a bust.
Yeah, I think the other rumor was that I had somebody.
Right.
Yes. I had somebody.
Yeah. You only did this because you got the guy from NIU or somebody was already had already cut a backdoor deal.
That's exactly right.
So there's no truth to that.
No truth to that at all.
All right. So the blueprint for Jeff Compher seems to be, because now this is kind of your second major hire, let's say, at East Carolina. Cliff Godwin, we'd always say, is a pretty big hire at ECU for the baseball program. Now Scotty Montgomery with the football program. Both guys, I was thinking about this over the weekend. Both guys young, both guys very successful assistants, both guys great recruiters, both guys very detail-oriented, structured, disciplined. Is that kind of are we starting to see the blueprint of the Jeff Compher blueprint as far as what he likes in a head coach?
Well, I certainly do like these two coaches. Courtney Oliver is another coach that I hired for our softball program that I guess you could fit into that mold as well if you wanted to do that. So there might seem to be a pattern there, but I don't ever limit my opportunities or my pool, because I think to go into it with a certain profile and only looking for a certain type of individual would not do the university justice.
It seems like East Carolina is the type of school, and where we are situated in finances, it seems like we're getting a coach kind of on the way up. Sometimes you got to take a little bit of a chance on that could be a diamond in the rough, rising star, or sometimes it could be a coach maybe, I don't want to say on the way down, but needs a second chance. Somebody that's been out there before, but's got some damage and some baggage perhaps in his history, and needs another opportunity. We've seen that in a lot of universities hire coaches like that. Is that kind of where, when you hire a guy, it's someone that maybe is unproven versus someone you got to give a second chance to that's been out there before?
Well, from my perspective, I want someone who's made major decisions in and around a program. And when I look at a guy like Cliff Godwin, who I knew was one of the best recruiters in the country, certainly one of the most well thought of assistant coaches in the country, I knew that he made a lot of decisions in and around that program, all the programs that he was involved with, his last program being Ole Miss. And the same thing with Scotty Montgomery. I wanted someone who called the plays, or on either side of the ball, I needed someone who had been in game situations and had to make decisions.
I want to take a break. I want to come back, spend the second half of our show talking about Scotty Montgomery, what he's done already at East Carolina in a short time. Very busy with recruiting. I know he's just writing the Pirate book under Scotty Montgomery right now, but we'll talk about that. Also want to come back. Baseball's getting ready to heat up soon. We'll touch on basketball, still a work in progress this season, and a lot more to go. And we return with East Carolina Athletic Director Jeff Compher right after this.
You're listening to Live at 5 with Troy D. and Ellerby. Now, back to the show.
All right, welcome back to the program. Good to have you here with us today. Remember, our friends at A.J. McMurphy's always bring you the hot audio on PirateRadio1250.com. It's always served up by A.J.'s where you can eat, drink, and be lucky. And, of course, you'll find Jeff Compher there tomorrow right on the homepage of PirateRadio1250.com. Thanks to A.J. McMurphy's. Remember, at A.J.'s Tuesday, it's buy one, get one free pasta all day long. Sunday is fun day. You buy one burger, you get one free, or chicken sandwich. So make today an AJ's Day. Next to the Food Line in Turnberry Square at the Bells Fork area in Greenville. Proud to bring you the hot audio every day online. So continue on with East Carolina Athletic Director Jeff Compher. If you're tuning in late, you've already missed a great segment. But you can catch it because we'll have it archived on YouTube, and we're currently on Periscope, and we'll have it on the Pirate Radio website and the mobile app too. But, Jeff, let's go back to the day Coach Mo was hired. That was about a Saturday, a busy day for you because he was hired, or you guys made the decision while you were still interviewing, I believe, the final three candidates. Is that right?
That's right. We had final three candidates that we interviewed. We had an interview team that I worked with. We interviewed in Raleigh, in a boardroom in Raleigh. It worked out very well logistically for everybody to be able to come in and meet with us. But once it was decided, once I felt like we had enough discussion about the candidates and I knew the direction that I was going to go in, it was interesting because Scotty wasn't around anymore. You know, he had already left to go home. But luckily for us, he lived in Apex, which was not very far from Raleigh. And so it was suggested, Jeff, maybe you should just drive over there. You and Kathy drive over there and see he and his wife. And I said, that is
a lot of times
great
it's a phone
idea.
call, right?
Lots of times it's a phone call or, you try and track each other down. It might take time. So I called and we said, are you going to be there for a while? I'd love to come over and talk to you about something pretty important. So I think he had an idea of what was coming,
yeah.
but we thought it would be a nice touch, and Kathy and I went over there and met with Ebony and his three boys and in their home, and we talked through.
What was his initial reaction? What was your opening line? Like, you're hired?
Well, no, I
said,
obviously I'm here for an important reason, and that reason is because we want you to be the next head football coach at East Carolina University. And he just got a huge smile on his face. He put his hand out and he said, you got it. And I was really...
So accepted right there.
Yeah, I mean, we had to talk through. I said, certainly we have to sit down and we're going to go through our memorandum of understanding. And when we went through a lot of the details, but at that point, I felt that he wanted it all the time. Almost from the very first time I met with him, I felt like it was a mutual kind of a feeling for us. And so it was really good to get that kind of confirming statement and handshake at that point.
When you had the process and you're down to the final three, was it pretty much a consensus? Or how do you, what if you felt good about one guy, but the committee or the folks with you felt other? Was there a split, and how do you reconcile that?
Well, what we did is we talked about the candidates' strengths and weaknesses without ranking the candidates. So it gave everyone a chance to say their piece, but without actually ranking them, so that they were really advising me at that point. And I needed their advice. And I appreciated them taking a full day, a Saturday before the holidays to sit down with us and do this. And so it was very, very good to have that many people in the room and for them to hear the excitement they had in all of our candidates, really, but in particular in Scotty.
So you do it the way a lot of people do it. If they're hiring someone for their business or staff, that you run the pros and cons, and everybody's got pros and cons.
That's right.
And you try and find the person that has the most pros and the fewest cons.
That's right.
Were there many cons on Scotty's list?
No, I mean, there weren't many at all. I mean,
I know he wasn't a head coach.
Yeah,
that's
I mean,
pretty much it.
Certainly that's something that you could point out, but every head coach wasn't a head coach at some point in their career. And so that didn't really bother me too much at that point. I think what you have to assess is, do they have the capacity? Do they have the expertise to be a head coach? And there wasn't any doubt in my mind that he did.
I've heard that he has hit the ground running since he has gotten here January 1st after the Duke Bowl game, and that already made changes internally with – not obviously had an important job to hire his staff. I want to get your opinion on that, on the guys that he's brought in, that he's surrounded himself with, and then structurally of the office, of how it runs and what they do. But everybody I've talked to over there seems, wow, this has been everything's been a great improvement so far.
He does. He has a plan. He gave me a plan. Actually, it was about a 50 or 60-page document of some of the elements as to how he would run the program, expectations everywhere from recruiting to academics to strength and conditioning. All of those things were outlined in there, and to this point, he's kept his word on all of those, and he's done a really good job, I think, of exciting our staff, those people that are still there, and there's a certain number of permanent people that are in and around our program that aren't going to change regardless of who the head coach is. And so that's been really good. Certainly you've spoken to Jeff Connors. I think he's been on a couple times, or at least once that I know of, on your show. And I think he's pretty enthusiastic about it. And you've talked to Brian Overton, I know, as well. So making a lot of very positive, energetic changes that I think are being communicated well.
The lifeblood of any program is recruiting. What type of recruiter have you seen, even in a short amount of time, as Scotty Montgomery?
Kind of an innovative guy, really. Loves technology, loves the use of technology in the recruiting. And before they could go out and actually talk to recruit, he's out visiting recruits right now. So, but before he could go out, what he did, they were allowed one phone call a week. So figured out, you can use FaceTime for that phone call. And so he would have all his coaches in a room, and they would have screens set up with recruits on each one, and then each coach would rotate from screen to screen. And he said, I give them each 2 minutes. And so there's like 8 recruits. And 10 screens, so they got a little break in there. And then he said I would go in afterwards and ask each recruit, who was your favorite coach? And he says they don't like that part of it. But
well, and for folks that aren't familiar, for some of our older listeners, let's say that maybe aren't familiar with FaceTime, it's basically a video telephone call over your computer or phone through Apple. And I guess you could Skype also with other products. It's incredible. I've done that with the kids some, and it really is a way to versus just a phone call where you're only hearing a voice, to bring it to life.
Well, especially when you have a new staff, to be able to put a name with a face and kind of get a little bit more feel for their personality when you can see how they express themselves and not just hear how they express themselves. So
last weekend was a big weekend here in Greenville for recruiting. How do you feel that went? I
think it went really well. I got a chance to meet all the recruits. Many of them brought their families and their guardians with them, and had a chance to meet with them. Impressive group of young men, several who were with us and had committed before, but also some new names to that list, so that was good to see as well. So I know they're out there working hard, and I know many of the coaches that he's hired have a great reputation in the coaching realm, and several of those guys said that once they found out they were going to ECU, their phones started ringing off the hook.
We reported Friday that Coach Ruff ended up getting a job at UVA, actually getting more money than he had at his base here. He signed 2 years for $450,000, which basically great for Coach Ruff. He's getting more money than if he sat out and did nothing and just took ECU's money, because it would have only been $400 a year. So it's I look at it as a win-win. It's a win for Coach Ruff. He stays in the business. He makes more money than he would have. It's a good for East Carolina that they save themselves, if that stays the same, potentially $800,000.
Yeah, potentially. Obviously, we have to run that through attorneys, and they have to make sure that all that works out as you would suspect it might. But first of all, congratulations to Coach Ruff for finding a job so quickly. Great position, great university. I know he knows some people on that staff, so I'm happy for him and his family that he's landed in such a great spot.
So we had a story, I believe, a week or two ago, the whole Buddy Ryan deal with.
Yeah.
It was
Rex
Ryan,
yeah.
Buddy Ryan, his dad. It was a separate ECU issue.
Right.
But Rex Ryan, of course, references East Carolina. Some would say in a derogatory way at a press conference. I think he was just trying to be funny, perhaps. But you caught wind of it, and when we talked about this on the air, for folks that might have missed it, you ended up getting Rex on the Pirate bandwagon, so to speak.
Yeah, I did. Carl Davis, who you know is former chair of our alumni association here at ECU, he sent me a letter that he sent to the TV station that actually first broke the story and talked about it and brought it to the attention of the Pirate fan base here in North Carolina. And so he sent a letter to them. They sent it on to some outlets in New York, Buffalo, and he caught wind of it, was asked about it. The media caught wind of it. They certainly asked him about it. So I thought I got a suggestion from one of our donors. They said, why don't we capitalize on this a little bit? Why don't you send him a shirt and see if he can get on the Pirate bandwagon? So, in essence, I did exactly that. I sent him a shirt, and I said, hopefully you can be a good sport and show people that you care about the Pirates. So he put the shirt on, and I said, please send me a picture of it. He did, and we got it out on social media pretty quickly.
Good PR for
yes.
ECU, I thought, and he was a good sport.
He was a really good sport. I appreciated that.
ECU football, obviously, a lot of new names, new faces. I think that the spring game this year will have a whole new level of interest that it hasn't had potentially in years. I know a lot of people probably excited about the Pirate Club Armada that'll be coming up this spring. Maybe see a lot more faces out there on the tour this year for fans that want to meet and interact with this new coaching staff. What are your expectations now that you've gotten to see these guys, talk with them, interact with them on a daily basis for ECU football 2016?
Well, during the recruiting weekend this past weekend, I watched them coach up guys in the hallway. I mean, they're talking about all kinds of technique stuff because they have a little whiteboard session where they're actually go over plays and that kind of thing. So it's neat to see that. So I'm really excited, not just for the recruits coming in, but also for our team. And as you might suspect, there is a lot of interest out there in our fan base to see how the team responds in spring ball. I know they're already going through their winter workouts, and there's I think a new tone to that. Certainly, Coach Connors is very enthused about that as well. So a lot of new things going on, and as you point out, the Armada's coming up later this spring. Should be a lot of Pirates there for those.
Switching gears quickly while we have a few minutes left, ECU basketball. I know, in season, there's only so much you can talk about in season, and I've talked with you enough to know that you evaluate sports at the end of the season. So for folks, for me to ask you about East Carolina basketball, I already know that you're going to say, well, I'm going to wait till the end of the year before I assess anything. Is that still a fair statement?
Yeah, that's certainly a fair statement.
So I guess really maybe a better question would just be, is ECU basketball, would that be held to the same standard, I guess, like ECU football?
Well, I think you have to look at the program in total, and you got to remember I was here my first year that I got here. I was hired in March, but I didn't actually start until May. But during that period of time, I got to see our program win the CIT, and that was pretty exciting times for us. And so I know the kind of excitement we can build around our basketball program. I've also seen that program respond each and every year to Coach Lebo and his staff, especially in the second half of the season, and I'm very hopeful that they will do that. I think Coach Macy's in a unique situation this year. Had some tough losses early in the conference season and some really tough games in the non-conference season, but I can see her team kind of turning around and responding a little bit better as well. So I'm very hopeful that our teams can respond, and I really look forward to Pirate basketball. We have a big game tomorrow night, and we had a great crowd, over 6,000 people last week when we played SMU. So people here, they respond to good basketball, and hopefully we can continue to have that kind of support.
And still a lot of the season left to play out, so we'll see what happens. But just to be clear, and Coach Lebo's still under contract to, I believe, the 2020 season.
Right, exactly.
2020-21, that season. And what I'm just curious, what is, people are a lot more aware of this now because of the recent activities and the business side of things as far as how much it costs. Hey, look, you got to weigh, what's the best for the future of the program. Coach Lebo, I understand, when you put his whole package together, close to about $1 million a year. But what's the base? What is his base salary? Because that's what really the university's on the hook for if there's ever a change down the road.
Had I known you were going to ask me that question, I probably would have studied it a little bit better, Troy. But I don't know. I wouldn't want to give the wrong answer, so it's probably better not to give any answer at this point because there is a difference between a base salary and a guaranteed salary.
But how much of that goes into a factor of when you have to make a decision of any coach that
I think
how much it costs to change?
I think any decision is there's a lot of facets that go into it when you're trying to make a decision like that, and so you evaluate each and every one of those. And that's certainly a big part of the process.
Saw Cliff Godwin earlier today. I know he's fired up. We'll have baseball media day.
I saw him too.
A couple weeks.
Was it right after his workout?
No, well, I don't know. It was,
he was sweating when I saw him.
He came down to the studio. We did a commercial for Coach for the ECU baseball banquet. That's going to be pretty exciting. We'll be talking about that. You might hear Coach talk about that on the station. But he's fired up about this year and really excited. Your expectations? What a first year he had out of the gate. Coming out of nowhere, winning a conference championship, 40 wins, and going to the NCAA tournament. I guess, as I told Coach, I said, well, the good news is you had a lot of success. Now the bar's been raised.
That's right. And you know what? That's the way he wants it. That's what we all want. And I know him. He's not going to rest until, and even after that, he won't rest. But his biggest goal is to get to Omaha. And he talks about that every single day. It is a big part of why he came back here to ECU, and I'm really proud of what he did last year and really looking forward to this season.
How do you feel going into 2016? This will be, you're getting ready to go into your, is it fourth football season?
Well, I'm finishing up. It'll be my 3-year anniversary.
Right.
Jay Bett and I started the same day, so it's around May the 1st. So
next season will be your fourth season,
right.
Or this season coming up. Time flies.
It really does.
You'll be a senior this year.
Every day, I bet you there's someone that says, you must be the new athletic director.
Yeah.
So I guess the newness is stuck around for a little while, but it is something that time really does fly. I mean, I'm more than halfway through my initial term, so it's very interesting to kind of see all the changes, not just with our program, but the university. Certainly all the great things that are happening there and with this community as well.
Well, that's a great point. Just like coaches are under contract, ADs are under contract.
Right.
How long are you under contract at ECU for?
5 years.
Okay. So do you do you feel that, look, you've really starting to put your stamp on this program. Do you feel the pressure like, boy, if Scotty Montgomery doesn't turn out to be like I know you and many other folks feel he can, do you feel like that's kind of the biggest decision you've made here and that you kind of live and die with that decision?
By far. I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head. I mean, the decisions we make regarding head coaching decisions and hires are probably the most important decisions we make because they affect the future of the program. And as I said in my introduction of Scotty, that football matters at ECU. It is the engine that drives our train, and for not just for our athletics department, but I think for this university and this community. And so we got to get it right.
As you look at the 2016, your outlook for ECU athletics, how do you see things as far as your expectations and how you feel as the program as a whole, not just with sports but behind the scenes, everything?
Well, to me, it's about progress. I mean, we've got to continue to make progress in revenue generation, and I got to say that I'm really happy with Jay Batt and what the Pirate Club has done. They've stepped up. We as a department said we want to go forward with cost of attendance before anyone else in our league did. Our Pirate Club members responded to that. We had the biggest fundraising year we've ever had. So thanks to everyone out there who's dug a little deeper in their pocket to contribute to that. We need to continue to build our fan base with season tickets. We had kind of plateaued out a little bit there. We need to get over that hump and start building that back again. And so I'm excited about the year. I really am. We're going to be talking about some interesting projects with the South Side renovation project and some other interesting things throughout the course of this spring. So hopefully you'll have me back on at some point and we can go through some of the details of some of the other announcements that I'm sure we'll be making.
Indeed. Once you guys get everything finalized the way you want, we look forward to spreading that news throughout the Pirate Nation as far as what's going on. As far as the facility enhancements, I know a lot of people are very curious to find out what exactly has been decided, and I know you guys have been working hard on that for over the past year, if not longer, on many improvements, especially today at Ficklin Stadium. Jeff, great stuff. I really appreciate you being here. I appreciate your candor. We did not, meet before the show to say, hey, let's get all this stuff straight. I
was a little worried, but
I just thought it would be a good opportunity to clear the air on some things. I think you did, and maybe I'm sure there's always somebody. Well, they didn't ask about this, but I really thought that this was an opportunity for you, who's taken a lot of heat from folks, and some, as I would say, not deserved, because if it's not based in fact and it's people are upset and the thing they're upset about is factually wrong, then that anger is misplaced, in my opinion. But everybody can agree to disagree. They may not like the decision, but I know you're trying to do what's best for East Carolina University and move the program forward, and we appreciate you sharing an hour today to talk about that process behind the scenes and going forward with our audience today.
Well, as I've said many times throughout this process, I'd rather have anger than apathy. I'd rather have people that care about a program that don't. And the one thing for sure, we have a lot of people that care about our athletics program and our university, and I'm very thankful to be a part of something that means so much. I think people work a long time in their lives, and they don't have that opportunity. So I'm very thankful that I work at a place where it matters as much as it does.
And that'll wrap it up for today. East Carolina Athletic Director Jeff Compher. If you missed it, we'll have that archived online, PirateRadio1250.com, also on the Pirate Radio mobile app, and we'll be putting that on our YouTube page, too. And thanks to our Periscope viewers that checked in today. We're on all our platforms across the board here on Pirate Radio. In case you missed it, as we said, we'll have it archived online, PirateRadio1250.com, as always. Till we greet you next time for another show, I'm Troy D. So long, everybody.
You've been listening to Live at 5 with Troy D. and Ellerby, an exclusive presentation of Pirate Radio 1250 at 9:30, the voice of the Pirate Nation.